excited.
We'll have you back again soon. I'm here with Ofir Dayan, an activist with Beyadenu, one of the major organizations advocating for Jewish rights on the Temple Mount. I'm here to talk about the latest from the Temple Mount. So could you give our listeners a little bit of background if they're Jewish and they're interested in visiting what is Judaism's holiest site? What do they have to go through to do that?
It's really important to mention that even before they come to the Temple Mount, there's a barrier. There's a barrier of understanding that the Temple Mount is Judaism's holiest site. I grew up in a secular education system for 12 years. I never heard the words Temple Mount. Until I was 20-something, I thought Judaism's holiest site is the Western Wall. Which is only holy because it was one of the supporting walls, allegedly, of temple, which is not even true. But putting it aside, I think that coming to the realization that you need to visit Temple Mount is already a big step taken by many Jews, because I do feel that the education system is not talking enough about it. But say that they did come to the realization that they want to visit the site, they would counter a lot of other barriers. For example, there are many gates to the Temple Mount, to the old city of Jerusalem, as you all know, but only one of them is accessible to Jews. What was once called the Mograbi Gate, now we changed its name to the Hallel Gate in memory of Hallel Ariel, who was murdered in Kiryat Arba and frequently ascended to the Temple Mount. So this is the only gate through which non-Muslims can ascend to the Temple Mount. And I say non-Muslims because it's not only Jews, but also Christians and other tourists who are visiting the Temple Mount can only ascend through the Hallel Gate. And in only very limited times during the day. During summertime, they can only visit from Sunday to Thursday, 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. and 1:30 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. Very limited hours. And as you can probably understand, hours that are not very convenient for those of us who are working or studying. So even if you manage to come there during the day, obviously Saturday and Friday, it's closed to Jews, and any time that is not 7 to 11 or 1:30 to 2:30 is also closed.
I visited the Temple Mount, it's probably like 5 years ago now. And at the time, there were these groups, mostly of women, who were sort of harassing Jewish visitors to the Mount and basically screaming at them, Allahu Akbar, most of the time. And shortly after I visited and I experienced that, I understand the police got rid of those groups. So what is it like now?
So those groups of women are banned from the Temple Mount. That does not mean that Jewish worshippers are not harassed in the site. There are women who are still screaming at you, but not as organized group as in the past. The Waqf is still controlling, the Jordanian Waqf is still controlling the site. So when a Jewish group would ascend to the Temple Mount, which is super important, Jews who for a lack of a better way to say it, look like Jews, they cannot ascend on their own. They have to be escorted by police and ascend with a group of other Jews that they would not necessarily know, but they just gather Jews together and ascend together with police escort. So when they would ascend, they would encounter a lot of Waqf officials. So the first person you see on the Temple Mount is a Waqf official inspecting how you dress. The Jewish modesty rules are not enough for them. So even if you're, for example, shoulders are covered, they would want sometimes your elbows to be covered as well. And when you walk in the Temple Mount, which is, for those of your listeners who have not been, is huge, not like it's depicted in the news, you would encounter a lot of Waqf officials who are escorting the Jewish group, inspecting if, God forbid, someone moves his lips or shakes as something that looks or might look like a prayer. And if they see someone doing one of those things, they would tell the Israeli police officers, who would come and arrest or detain the person who is allegedly praying or singing or moving.
So I heard that you were recently banned from visiting the Temple Mount. You want to tell us what happened?
Yes. I frequently ascend the Temple Mount. I go there very often. I know their briefing that they give you by heart, and the briefing is very specific. They say that you cannot engage in any religious activities, and you cannot pick anything from the ground. I know it sounds really weird, but you can't take leaves or sand or anything with you, and you can't perform any religious ritual. A few months, I actually do it for many years. I don't know why all of a sudden it became an issue. I would sing Hatikvah, the Israeli national anthem, to myself while I was there, because I think it's very symbolic. One of the lines is being a free people in our homeland, Zion in Jerusalem. And we're not free on the Temple Mount in Zion. So I started singing it to myself. I'm not a religious individual. For me, this is my prayer. What's holy to me is not necessarily divinity. What is holy to me is Jewish peoplehood. So Hatikvah, for me, it's a very important aspect. I started singing it. I did it for many times and nobody said anything. One time that I did it, a police officer came and told me, stop doing that. And I said, stop doing what? And he said, and walked away. The second time, he told me that everything I'm doing on the Temple Mount is recorded. I know what I did. He knows what I did. And I was like, okay. And again, I think it's illegal to ban religious practice, but even if you do, Hatikvah is not a religious practice. It's a completely secular. And then the third time I did it, that they know of, they waited for me outside the gate when I left the compound, and they told me that I'm banned from ever ascending again until I meet with the head of the Holy Sites unit in the Israeli police, so he can tell me how wrong it is what I did.
Have you met with him? Because this was just last week, right? Right,
that was last week. And by the way, I think it's really important to mention at no point when I asked, they told me that what I did wrong was sing Hatikvah. I had to insist and tell me what I did wrong. I'm not going to go to that meeting until I know what you're charging me with. And they really, tried to be vague about it. After, 20, 30 minutes that I'm talking to this police officer, he said that what I did wrong is sing Hatikvah. I am not going to hide that I did that. I did that, and even in their strict and ridiculous and illegal regulations, singing Hatikvah is allowed. It's not a religious practice, and I'm going to insist that. I tried meeting with the head of the Holy Places Department. I did not get answered. I tried calling many times. They never answered the phone. But I got forwarded a document that was crafted by the legal advisor, the legal counsel for the Jerusalem district in the Israeli police. And there said that it's illegal for the police to ban people from ascending until they talk to this commander. And if they want to condition ascendants on being briefed, one of the commanders on the ground has to brief me. They can't tell me to come to their offices in order to be briefed. So tomorrow morning, I'm going to arrive at Hallel Gate and demand to ascend or be briefed on the spot. We'll see what happens.
So I want to just sort of broaden this from just your story in the couple of minutes we have, that the activists working on the Temple Mount issue, I think their issue here is that yes, there is a mosque on the Temple Mount and Muslims pray there every day, but that it's also holy for Jews, and also Israel is a country with, free speech and freedom of worship, and that Jews should also have rights there. But if we play devil's advocate a little bit, right, the argument is often that Jews coming up there and praying or singing Hatikvah is seen as a provocation by the Muslim worshipers, by Jordan, which administers the site, and that's the reason why they put all these limitations. So sort of how do you respond to that? Because it has been the sort of nexus of a lot of violence over the decades.
Right. So first of all, let me say that if someone views a prayer as a provocation, they are the problem, not the prayer. I mean, it's completely unreasonable to see a prayer as a provocation, the way that I don't view their prayers as a provocation. I view them flying Hamas flags on the Temple Mount as a provocation, but not their prayer. The second thing I want to say is that I recently ascended to the Temple Mount with a very famous Israeli TV personality who is doing a documentary about issues in Israeli society, one of them being the Temple Mount. And she met with a lot of people before coming to the Temple Mount. And when we ascended, the one thing, religious, secular, women, men, young, old, the one thing we all told her is a quote saying, my house would be a house of worship for all peoples.
And it's a quote from prayers, from Jewish prayers.
That's the way we all view it. For me, I don't really use that quote because I'm not a religious individual. For me, the way I would say it is a quote from Jabotinsky, my spiritual leader, who said, "Ben Araf ben Atzeret uvni," demonstrating how all peoples should live together in the land of Israel.
Which means the son of Arabs, the son of Nazareth, meaning a Christian, right?
Yeah. And my son, meaning a Jew. I think for all of us, those Jews ascending to the Temple Mount and activists, we all view this place as a place of unity, as a place of peace, as a place where we never want to exclude anyone from this place, unlike our counterparts on the Muslim side. For us, it's not a compromise, it's an ideal. We want all peoples to feel free praying on the Temple Mount. And that's why I'm 100% sure that we have the moral upper hand. And that's why I'm sure that praying there is not a provocation. If we can accept Muslims praying there, there is absolutely no reason why Muslims can't accept us praying there. Yes, I do think that extremists have to be banned from the Temple Mount, those flying Hamas flags, and those who call to remove all Muslims from the Temple Mount. Luckily, on our side, there are not many, because as I told you, the one thing that we can almost everyone agree on is that this place has to be a place for worship for all peoples. And I am glad to be in the camp that views it this way. And I think the people who do not view it this way, and there are obviously more of them on the other side, those are the people that are dangerous. Those are the provocators. Those are the people that needs to be removed from the Temple Mount, not those who aspire to really make this place a place for all people.
Oh, just one more question before we have to go. There's also sort of the Jewish argument that the chief rabbinate says that Jews are not allowed to pray on the Temple Mount. Right. I know that you've said it several times. You're not religious. First of all, if I could ask you a somewhat personal question, even if you're not religious, do you keep to the rules, the Jewish law sort of rules of going to the mikveh? Do people ask you about that before you go? And second of all, how do you respond to people about that? Okay, so two really important questions. I think the Jewish debate on this issue is very important. I will first address the personal question. I would, if that's okay, keep it between the Lord and myself. That's fine.
But I do get asked a lot. I think recently more women started ascending to the Temple Mount and explaining to the men ascending that this is not an appropriate question. First of all, because it's very intimate. And second of all, because it's really something that is between, a woman and God. The second question about the chief rabbinate saying that Jews should not ascend to the Temple Mount, the reason they are saying it, and yes, I am secular, but also, I care about this issue, so I studied it and I tried understanding where it's coming from. It is coming from a genuine concern about the fact that Jews today are not pure enough to ascend to the Temple Mount. There are areas on the mount that those who are not pure, who came in contact with the dead, and with the lack of a red cow. Its ashes are supposed to purify you before ascending, and does not exist today. Those conditions do not exist. However, today, with archaeological artifacts, with research, we are completely certain where are the limits that Jews are allowed or not allowed to walk at. And I don't think that's their intent, but the routes that the police takes Jewish groups does not enter those premises. So anywhere Jews walk on the Temple Mount is a later addition by King Horus, and not places that are, according to Judaism, too holy to enter while you're not pure. So I think today it's more of an argument on the ultra-Orthodox side, the rabbinical side, the rabbinate, the chief rabbinate, is more of preserving their power than really worrying about Judaism.
You think it's a political argument, you're saying?
100%. I think it's political. It's political
on your side as well, right? It's just a different
100%. Right. I think if they really cared about Jews ascending properly, they would issue guidance to those who are ascending. They can't ignore the fact that people are ascending. But instead of telling them, these are the limits where you can walk or can't walk, these are the things that you need to do to ascend to the Temple Mount, they just say don't. And it's obviously politically motivated and unrealistic. People ascend. If they cared about Judaism, they would guide them how to do it properly instead of just ignoring the fact that people ascend to the Temple Mount.
Our time is up, but I thank you so much for coming on the show, and this has been very interesting.
Thank you for having me.